Thunder! 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 ThunderCats! Ho!
Welcome back, ThunderCats fans, to another episode of the ThunderCats Reviews, brought to you by the Radical Retro Rewind podcast. As always, I am your host, Radical Ryan Hunter, here with everyone's favorite brother, David, and we're doing 2 new episodes for you today. David, we're back. We're amped, because next month we have a huge episode to get through.
We do. We have the anointing of the Lord of the ThunderCats himself, Lion-O.
So that's gonna be, David, our, I guess, Christmas special where Lion-O gets his wings. He gets to be the title of Lord of the ThunderCats officially, because as of right now, clearly he's not it.
I have a list here. I'd like to thank creatures both living and dead. First of all, I'd like to thank Mumm-Ra for this anointing.
The Unicorn Keeper, the Wolos, the Burbles, the Living Ooze. Who else we got?
I'd like to thank Mendora for all those late night rides on her
Electra Charger.
Charger to the penile planet.
Which, when we get into today's episode, David, I have a Mandora question for you. But we did get a wonderful comment from Mitesh, our friend. I love being able to read these comments on air. So this was from last month, David. Mitesh says, another excellent show. Thanks, Ryan and David. And once again, Mumm-Ra calls upon the ancient spirits of voyeurs to keep a creepy eye on the T-Cats. Do you think Tigra knows that his Silky was flirting with Lion-O in the form of Diamondfly? Is so true. Is that not the equivalent of a Silky Diamondfly? Yeah, the laugh is my favorite.
Tigra. That's what it sounded like to me. I don't know.
Mumm-Ra is just a big flirt playing with both cats. Now, after the careless Lion-O gets his sword out of the space hole and the Thunder Cubs deal with a genie, we are going to start cheering for Lion-O as he starts his anointment trials. Your bungling friend, Mitesh. Thank you, Mitesh.
Compliments will get you everywhere. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we officially started calling our ThunderCats fans bunglers thanks to Mitesh and Mumm-Ra, of course. I've been thinking about games as well, David, because we do games in our normal Radical Retro Rewind episodes sometimes. ThunderCats, I feel like we have an opportunity to do something with that. So any ThunderCats listeners out there, Mitesh, anyone who has any ideas for ThunderCats related games, we would love to do that maybe in the new year.
Name that bungler.
Name that. There might be something with bunglers. We could do a whole bungler thing. So today, David, we are back to season 1, and of course, thank you to the ThunderCats Wikipedia for the synopsis and trivia we will be using in both of today's episodes. We begin with episode 35 of season 1 with the original air date of November 8th, 1985, and this one is called Sword in a Hole.
Metaphorically speaking.
I, David, had no remembrance of what Sword in a Hole was until I watched it, and then I'm like, oh, Captain Shiner. Okay, Captain Shiner. A villain that does appear one more time after this. So he ain't that great.
Him and the driller. Only 2 times, right?
Yeah, isn't that weird? Because honestly, they made a Captain Shiner action figure back in the day, and they made a driller too. So it's like either LJN, the toy company, figured that these characters were going to be around more.
The whole idea of the drill is pretty cool, though. Like the thing being a drill itself, the action figure. So I would go for that. I'd be down with that. If I want Shiner, I could just get a Shar-Pei dog.
Is he a dog, David? He does have those jowls. He's a space dog, a Russian space dog.
Well, there is a part in this episode where he refers to Snarf as a fuzzy dog. So
an S.O.S. from the edge of a black hole in deep space sends Lion-O, Snarf and Cheetara out in the Feliner. Captain Shiner, a space mercenary working for Mumm-Ra, captures Lion-O and Snarf. The Sword of Omens is seized, and Mumm-Ra appears, and he hurls the sword into the black hole, David. Okay, so
So first of all, you see Mumm-Ra at the viewing pool as usual. His voyeur, like Mitesh says, the spirits of voyeur. What does Mitesh say?
Once again, Mumm-Ra calls upon the ancient spirits of voyeurs to keep a creepy eye on them.
He's watching and he's like, I know that those ThunderCats could not resist an SOS from space. Like you telling me, I know you couldn't resist that extra slice of pizza from your favorite pizza place. Like, I know that they could not resist an SOS from space. Really?
Those miserable ThunderCats would never be able to resist an SOS from outer space. But all they're heading for is a rendezvous with extinction. And I will be rid of the Sword of Omens forever!
But did you notice they actually flew by in the Feliner past the Black Pyramid? So I actually thought, I was like, that's a bad idea. Do not go too close to Mumm-Ra. They kind of flew right past the Black Pyramid. Which also
leads me back to my whole thing that they live in close proximity, even though they make it seem like it's so far away.
To me, yeah, I would have avoided it because I don't think they know that Mumm-Ra does this per se. But honestly, I wouldn't have even wanted to tip him off that I was flying anywhere because...
he might send a storm.
A giant insect, a storm.
Random woman, spirit of some kind.
Yeah. Transforming it with heels into a new identity.
I mean, he could have given Synergy from Gem and the Holograms a run for her money.
You know what? Honestly, that is the truth. He loves a good mirage.
Could you imagine? Spirits of evil, showtime.
David, I don't know if you noticed, for some reason, this episode on Hulu looked really ragged. Like, it looked more worn than the other episodes, and I noticed they started to put now the Cartoon Network logo on the bottom.
You know what that is? They probably recorded it from TV.
That's what it looks like right now, because they have the Cartoon Network logo and it's worn. And the intro, I always assumed they, used in like a stock intro, whatever the case is. This seems like even back in the day, they must have been like reusing the footage over and over again. It's getting more and more worn as the episodes
like the VCR tape. God only knows, they don't, it's hard to say because even some of the biggest works of art or cinematography get lost to time because they get mishandled, they get put into a vault, they do all these different random things, and then and degradation and just time destroys things. And it's so funny that when they find these things like Michael Jackson and Prince have 1,000 songs, 10,000 songs that we've never even heard of. God only knows.
They haven't released those into 10 volumes of commemorative.
I'm blabbering too much, but the bottom line is yes. I think that they don't realize when it was being made. It probably wasn't realized that it was going to be like a cult following and people really going to like it. So it probably got thrown aside here and there, and God only knows where they've come up with the pieces to get all the complete set.
It would be like the masters, I guess, the master tapes, whatever they use. They're not getting the Disney Vault treatment. Like David said, they're locked away, but when they come out of the vault, they aren't being redone. Even the DVDs, I don't believe that. By the way, David, back in the day, got me basically the whole collection of T-Cats on DVD. But I even remember too, David, they weren't remastered in any way, which is sad for, like you said, a classic show.
Lynn Lipton's probably got some in a cardboard box. She's like, remember that time that we took some of the tapes? We didn't know we were coming back for another season or not. Some of the reels.
Do you remember, and I know this, my God, we're going on 3 years now, but when we started this, one of the trivias was Lynn Lipton used to record the recording sessions of the voices, so that woman must have a stock full of VHS tapes with God knows what from the ThunderCats recording sessions. Please, God, don't make me come up with another voice. Speaking of Lynn Lipton, no Mandora? Wouldn't you think the first thing an SOS in space would have gone to Mandora, or maybe at least Lion-O saying, Mandora, do you know what's going on?
No, because she's someplace far away. This is close.
Oh, she's busy?
This was close, yeah. She's on the gray penile planet.
Oh, but she makes them get here immediately. But she could take our time when there's black holes and Captain Shiner. So, I think you like this line quite a bit. You bring it up.
Rendezvous with extinction, yes. There's a few lines that I really like in this, but my favorite, all-time favorite, is when... So, Lion-O gets captured with Snarf, and all of a sudden, he's like, why are you doing this, you... whatever he calls himself, and he's like, no, I prefer... Does he say, I prefer mercenary? Calls him a name like you bandit, and he says, I prefer mercenary or something. So he goes, why are you doing this? And Captain Shiner says to him, I did it for the money. And Mumm-Ra out of nowhere appears and goes, and I paid him the money.
This fuzzy fellow has come around. Welcome. I am Captain Shiner. Snarf! Where's Lion-O? Bring him in. Lion-O!
It's all right, Snarf. I'm okay.
But who are they? Snarf, snarf.
Hijackers.
Mercenaries, if you please. But what do they want from us?
He has what he wants.
The Sword of Omens? Snarf, snarf. Why? As I told you, I am a mercenary. I did it for the money. And I paid the money. One sword, as per our agreement. Without your wretched sword, Thundercat, you are nothing. You're wasting your time. The Sword of Omens does not work for evil. I may not be able to use it, but I can certainly destroy it.
No!
Let the ceremony of expulsion begin!
I actually wrote the same two things down, David. I did it for the money, and I paid the money.
But it was just the way he said. He was like a totally like pimped out, and I paid him the money.
And I paid the money.
Out of nowhere, he just appeared.
Yeah, they're in space at this point on Captain Shiner's ship. And yes, Mumm-Ra, of course, because he was listening. He's like, yes, I got the money.
Hey,
Diamond.
Baby, I got your money, don't you worry. Said, hey.
So what is this line that I wrote down? Cheetara, it's huge. Can we handle it? I believe that was the black hole. But I thought
believe that was something that you did by yourself that I have no idea about, and I will not mention during this podcast.
I'm telling you, I wrote that down because I was thinking in my head, if someone took maybe the ThunderCats outtakes plus other words, you could totally make a ThunderCats porno.
It's huge. Can we handle it?
That's terrible. I'm calling this the censors.
Listen, we needed a ThunderCats OnlyFans for the Radical Retro Rewind.
I bet you there is. I have a question. Did you notice that Captain Shiner's ship looked very much like the Great Penile Planet setup?
Or the Jolly Roger or something. It looked very familiar.
Yeah, it was very familiar. So I'm assuming they used some of the
animation.
Or animation, I should say, yeah. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is Mumm-Ra tosses 3 different, like, Egyptian spirits, like Anubis and something else, and he's like, and banishing this sword that is used to help the weak. And he tosses it into what he thinks is Oblivion, the black hole.
Hear me, unquat, Anubis, Opis. I offer up the eye of Thundera. I consign to the deep this defender of the right, the just, and the weak. No!
Which is also something I never expected. The black hole is not really a black hole per se. It is something called Neptune, which is a giant ball, sphere.
The premise of a black hole in this instance is to clean up space debris and trash.
Yes. Yes.
And it's being controlled by this robot sphere called Neptune, but it's an acronym. It stands for...
let's see. It says, yes, that it is Neptune is Navy Engineers Power Tower under nuclear energy. Damn.
Neptune?
The Navy Engineers Power Tower under nuclear energy, Neptune. Please bring all your records, logs, and registry. Step lively. Greetings. I am the voice of Neptune.
It's an artificial intelligence supercomputer.
They decide to steer the ship into this black hole without thinking that even for a moment that they could be just crushed. Because in our reality, a black hole is a collapsing star that pulls things in and crushes it and disappears. Now, I know there's been theories about wormholes and different things with black holes that we're not sure about, and we probably don't know. But I found it really interesting. They go into the black hole, they are captured by this Neptune, and then Panthro being a little bit more diplomatic about it, saying, may we please proceed to find the sword? And he's like, no, it is property of, Neptune or whatever. But he also says it's the Venusian something works.
Yeah, that's evidently, it's saying that's the whoever built this Neptune thing. I guess it's an alien race, it's saying.
Here's the thing. This is what I'm really getting at, because for all of our listeners who have been listening since the beginning, this totally seals the deal with the theory that Third Earth is actually our Earth, again, reborn, because they're talking about Neptune, the planet Neptune, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he says... Lion-O says Venus has been burnt out for years.
Oh, yes.
So we all know that is in our neck of the woods. And so Third Earth really is the planet Earth. Maybe Mumm-Ra right now is someplace in a pyramid. We don't realize it until...
Oh my god, that's right. He's out there waiting, honestly.
He's waiting for the apocalypse so we can... I want to be a Thundercat.
It's on paper, it's a great thing, David, but they go through so much if you think about it. They can't even sleep. They can't even sleep. Cheetara's got to be watched.
If comes to my mirror, I'd be fine.
Beautiful Cheetara.
They get captured, and they're in a solid titanium cell.
Ooh.
Which also immediately I think of Sia. Bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, fire away.
But is that also where they have what did he say? It was good dose of radioactivity will cool them down. Is that where they have Lion-O and Snarf basically going around to power something as slaves?
Yes. So you have the point where, am I missing something? Did I miss something up? Because they didn't take Lion-O from the prison cell.
Well, it says, Lion-O and Snarf come to find themselves bound and taken captive by the commander of the Virtus, Captain Shiner. Mumm-Ra suddenly appears out of nowhere, revealing it was his evil scheme to use Captain Shiner to obtain the Sword of Omens. The mummy flings the sword into the black hole, and Lion-O and Snarf are chained up and made to pull a large Baron rod inside the ship's reactor room. Cheetara comes back with Panthro, who sneaks into the Virtus unnoticed. Then he heads to the reactor room and frees his two comrades. Together, the three take over the Virtus and fly straight into the black hole, a move that horrifies Captain Shiner. And then once in the black hole, the ThunderCats and Shiner realize that it is in fact not a black hole, but a gigantic force field meant to look like a black hole. They come face to face with the creature of the black hole, an artificial intelligence named Neptune. And then after being reminded by Jaga, Lion-O calls the Sword of Omens to him and uses it to break everyone out of their confinement. Panthro heads to the control room of the power station. With a few adjustments, manages to reverse the polarity, causing the black hole to spit out everything that had previously sucked in. So that's when Jaga comes and he's like, the sword waits.
Yeah, I have it written down. So then the guys, they're all in a titanium cell, and Lion-O basically says the sword is lost. And there was a point when he tells Panthro, did you see when he tells Panthro the sword is lost, and Panthro is like dumbfounded. He's like, the sword is gone?
Shiner, a mercenary. Mumm-Ra used him to get the sword.
They have
The sword?
Worse, Mumm-Ra threw it into the black hole. It's gone for good.
How many of these sea raiders are we up against?
Yeah, what the hell was...
Well, I think he knows that that's the biggest power that they have against all these horrible things. Jaga tells Lion-O that the eye only sleeps until needed, and then Captain Shiner's like, "Your lord of the ThunderCats talks to himself," and it is implied that Snarf also sees Jaga, and so I'm thinking that maybe Snarf, and because of their connection, Snarf and Lion-O only two that really see Jaga. Except for that one episode when he was fighting,
Groon.
So Lion-O calls to the sword, but he calls in a different way. He actually says, "Thunder, thunder, thundercats, ho," and calls to the sword. Then he says, "Sword of Omens, come to my hand." So he actually uses the Thundercats call first.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I wonder if that was just the writer's idea of calling it, or was that meant to really grandstand?
It was to activate the sword, I guess. But very dramatic. He blasts through. They make it out, and then the ship itself is on a collision course to basically oblivion. And love me some Cheetara. She says that I couldn't leave. I made one more pass before I ran out of fuel because she just wasn't going to leave. She just couldn't bring herself to do it. Which you see them floating in space.
That I don't get.
Which again, you find out that they can go into space, which to us, the vacuum of space would kill us instantly. That's what NASA tells us. I don't know what you want to talk about. I'm not flat earthing right now.
It looks so flat from up here. David's right. They're floating in space, and honestly, they didn't look too concerned. They didn't even say, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" It just so happened that, like David's saying, Cheetara did do this one more flyby, but there was a scene earlier where, and I thought it was very powerful, David. Tigra says, "Come home, Cheetara, you're almost out of fuel," and she goes, "No!" That's when she screams, "No, I will not leave."
Virtus entered the black hole at 0800. Lion-O, Panthro, and Snarf were aboard. All communications are dead.
Come home, Cheetara. No one ever returns from a black hole.
No!
But you're almost out of fuel.
I have to stay.
Plus, I love that, again, Cheetara learned to fly that helicopter, like in Dawn of the Dead. She learned how to fly the Feliner, and she is still so loyal that even running out of fuel, she can't give up on them.
So what you're trying to say is in the original, when he says, "How much fuel we got?" She goes, "Not much." He goes, "Okay."
Yeah.
How much fuel do we have?
Not much.
All right.
This is Dawn of the Dead, but in ThunderCats. So also Captain Shiner goes down with the ship, and they think that he is dead, but it turns out he somehow got into a little ship, or the ship turned into this little portable thing, and then we see that he's alive, and Panther, I believe, says, "Don't ever count him out." Someone like Shiner, like they go back for years.
Well, they're assuming that he's like a mercenary space pirate. Again, that kind of theme about mercenaries and things like that. They kind of commend him and say that he told them to leave. He was going down with the ship. But now that, looking at it this way, you know that he had an escape thing. So he knew he was going to be able to escape. So it wasn't so honorary after all that he knew. He's like, "All right, I'll let you go. You got me out of here. We'll go. You can go. But I also know that I'm going to be able to escape." So either he didn't know he could escape or he did. And those are the two different things, because they almost say that even though he was a horrible person, he had honor by going down with the ship. It's not the Titanic, but...
I'm sorry Captain Shiner went down with the ship. He was on the wrong side, but he was a brave man.
Don't be too sure he didn't survive. He was a remarkable space seaman.
But surely, if the Virtus was as badly damaged as you say, it was hopeless.
Yes, but what could he do to save her?
You never know with a man like Shiner.
Thunder, 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 ThunderCats!
David's right. I took it as, after seeing it, knowing that he had that ship, that, yeah, like you said, he was just like, yeah, go. But I think he kind of figured they were going to be screwed at this point, because we see that he really isn't a good character, because evidently he comes back again as a villain. So yeah, he lets them go. he probably knew he had that, and he probably figured, well, you're going to be floating into space, because what other person wouldn't burn up in space, like you're saying? Or breathe.
I don't know. Do we really know for sure what happens to somebody in space? Because I've heard everything from your lungs turn into, like, burn up, your nostrils would set on fire, or you'd freeze to death in a few seconds, turn into an icicle. Am I that ignorant that I don't know, or is that really we just don't know? We've never figured that out yet?
No, I mean, can't breathe in space, but you're right. Like, how do we know the difference?
I mean, you can't breathe. Space is supposed to be composed of mostly of hydrogen, right? So you can't breathe hydrogen, but the whole theory of what happens to a living thing in space is either it instantly freezes, or they're like, I mean, we're not sending somebody up to find out, but...
Well, all I saw was in one of the Disney Star Wars, Princess Leia flew outside of a spaceship and forced her way back in. So she survived breathing in space in Star Wars even. So you tell me.
She has the Force.
She Mary Poppined herself back in. So, David, honestly, there's a few things I think that they were really trying to do a lot with this one, and I appreciate that in the plot. I love abandoned spaceship. This has been done in movies where you find the creepy abandoned ship aliens. You're like, why did the people all disappear? Where's the log? Yes. I kind of like that plot line, especially for horror elements, even down to they had a poisoned coffee drink waiting for Lion-O. So they were trying a lot with this episode.
Spiked coffee. Well, I can see Shiner like having coffee like in a teacup, a coffee cup, but like a little thing.
Comes
off a little bougie.
I agree. So the trivia for this episode is the mutants are absent from this episode, which clearly
they have been for a while. I feel like, were they in the last?
No, we haven't had them in a while. Actually, I hope they're doing well. I hope Slithe is cooking for them.
It's like, I took up my old career.
I'm finding spices, yes. Wily Kit and Wily Cat appear briefly near the beginning of the episode, but are not seen again. Which, David, I kind of appreciate.
Do you think that when Lion-O calls the ThunderCats and they're all amped up and Cheetara's like, no! You will sit in Cat's lair in case someone tries to attack Cat's lair, and they're like, Cheetara! I can't take it anymore. I just want it. She's like, calm yourself down. Take a melatonin. Take some Benadryl. Calm down. Because they're all amped up on the power from the sword, and they have to sit and watch a telescreen or whatever.
David, that's hysterical, because I always got that idea, too, that they got so energized, almost like a catnip kind of thing. Like, they're like, like...
It enhances powers. Whatever. It's like a supernatural power boost.
So they're literally jumping off the walls in the control rooms, probably, like, not being able to contain themselves. And that's why Panthro earlier was saying, sword gone? Drugs? Power gone? Also, before flinging the Sword of Omens into a black hole, Mumm-Ra recites a chant in which he mentions Anubis, a net, a net for cello.
From the original Mickey Mouse Club? What?
A Quent, and Anubis, all of whom are deities from Egyptian mythology. I will play the clip because clearly I cannot speak, as you all know.
The person's name is Sophia, and he's like, Sa-fi-fa-fi-ho?
Sulfuric acid? As he leaps from the Feliner into the Virtus, Panthro yells, Geronimo! A phrase often uttered by people who are jumping from considerable altitude, like parachuters. The word comes from Geronimo. Well, okay! What the hell does that mean?
You know the song, Say Geronimo. Say
Geronimo. So what does that mean? It comes from Geronimo. Thank you, ThunderCats Wikipedia. So what did you think of Sword in the Hole?
I actually liked it. I did not like the fact of Captain Shiner's rando, like, Sharpay, shaved down Sharpay minions. Kind of was like, I did like the fact when they hosed the water down, like, and, like, turned it to steam, like, this will cool you down. That was a cool, cruel but cool.
But it showed how warm that room was. The floors steamed because it was so hot with radioactivity, which is, ooh.
And Mumm-Ra does say a good dose of radioactivity will cool them down. He means kill them. I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have an issue with this episode about bungling. Because I feel the biggest. Do we do this at the end of the episode?
We do it at the end, but I also have a slight problem. But I think I have a solution to that, David, which we will get to.
Okay. Bangla! You stupid Bangla. Bangla.
So this leads us to our next episode.
Dun, 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 dun.
ThunderCats!
Oh! I'm Lion-O, Lord of the ThunderCats, reminding you that kids are not allowed to drink anything with alcohol in it.
And I'm Snarf, telling you this, don't kid around with drinking. It's against the law.
Obey the code. Don't drink alcohol.
So David, next is the evil harp of Charr-Nin, episode 36 of season 1, which aired on November 11th of 1985. The ThunderKittens discover a magic harp, strum it, and release Charr-Nin, a genie who has been imprisoned inside. Mumm-Ra sees this action in his cauldron, transforms into a Vulcan, and then seizes up the harp. There's a lot that happens in this, but then not at all. Where do we begin? The ThunderKittens are frolicking.
You have Wily Kit and Wily Cat doing their typical surfing on their floating surfboards, hoverboard.
So they're off to basically either destroy a tomb, raid some kind of relics from an ancient civilization, and release something.
Or havoc and problems. They're just exploring.
It's beautiful.
Come on, help me pull it out. Oh, it's heavy.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I don't begrudge them anything. They're just exploring.
No,
they
I
can't
don't
help
begrudge
them.
them.
Everything's out to kill you on Third Earth.
But it seems like this is the plot, right? Like, get them out to investigate in Third Earth, and then something's gonna happen.
So every time the ThunderKittens, as he calls them, go out, Mumm-Ra seems to always be watching. He's like the crazy neighbor that like hates your children. That's like they're laughing again because he immediately they've just been flying around. He hasn't even gotten to. They haven't even found this golden hulch that's Charr-Nin, and he says, "What demons of the dark awakens me?"
David, he was sleeping in the tomb, and I don't know if this was a choice, but I think that Mumm-Ra's voice actor sounded really tired for a few minutes going into this, so I really loved it, because it played into that whole thing that Mumm-Ra was disturbed.
What demons of the dark have awakened me? What have those cursed ThunderCats stumbled on? You have released me, young masters. I am in your debt.
Who are you?
I am Charr-Nin, the genie of the great golden harp.
You're right, when he says that, he's kind of like, what demons of the dark have awakened me? Like, he didn't feel it. He was just like, oh my god, I'm so tired.
He's like, my Arlo cameras are going off again. What area of do I have to plug them in to charge them again? Or are the solar panels working on those Arlo cameras?
They must be dead. Mumm-Ra must be charging those cameras continuously, let me tell you, because of all the things that he monitors. So yes, he's watching them again, frolicking unmolested, as he says in an older episode.
So they come across this harp. They're trying to pull it out. They want to give it to Lion-O as like a gift, and then Charr-Nin comes out, which is a genie, and I kept calling him Charmin, like the
toilet paper,
like the toilet paper, or Charmaine. I don't know why. I was like, oh, Charmaine, the genie. It's Charr-Nin, and
Charr-Nin.
like SHRR, Charr-Nin. He tells them, that they're his master. They seem a little bit like taken aback, but they ask him to help them get out of the hole that they fall in. He does that. And then
you strum him. You gotta strum him first, David. You gotta play with him first.
You gotta ring my bell, ring it. So then you see Mumm-Ra going, what? He goes, what simple form should I use to fool them? A frail, elderly Balkan. Why not?
What simple disguise will get me into the wretched Cat Slayer. Those soft-hearted fools will never be able to resist a frail and elderly Bolkin.
And I'm actually impressed Mumm-Ra did not do his usual drag performance. Unless Balkans have no gender identity.
Oh, no gender.
Maybe he's really just dabbling. He's like, this Balkan could be whatever. So he didn't go in his usual RuPaul's Drag Race form.
Or was he too tired today? He was clearly tired. He was clearly awakened and he didn't want to do the whole, maybe the wig, the outfit.
So he goes in, he hypnotizes the ThunderCats. He goes to Charr-Nin and says, I am Mumm-Ra, the most powerful spirit on Third Earth, and I will release you from your harp prison if you get rid of all the ThunderCats. So here's an interesting thing. Charr-Nin, even though he's the quote-unquote genie in the bottle, sort of, the harp, Mumm-Ra did not touch the harp, and he immediately was able to change sides and say that he was going to be a free agent, where normally, according to genie and jinn folklore, you are bound to the person who, one, holds the bottle, and two, that they still had wishes to come to them. So it's a loose interpretation of a genie, even though Charr-Nin is technically a genie.
Do you appreciate, speaking to that point, that A, it wasn't the typical genie lamp and it was a harp, and then that 2, it seemed like there was unlimited wishes?
Well, the first thing I would have done, to be honest with you, as soon as I got Charr-Nin, it said, I wish that Mumm-Ra never existed. I wish that Thundera was still around.
Ooh!
Be a little bit taller. I wish it was a baller.
Well, thank you, but why do you call us your masters?
This harp has been my prison for many thousands of years. Now you have released me. I will grant your every wish.
Can you get us out of this pit?
Simply play the harp, young master, and you shall see.
Here goes.
No, their first thought is actually really beautiful. We're gonna give it to Lion-O, which was actually really sweet, but I don't know. This shows their childlike nature, right? Because they said, we're not even gonna tell him what it does, right? We just want him to strum it, see that head on the ends of this harp and wanna play it. I should say, Charr-Nin's head is shaped on the front of the harp like a ship, like a mascot on a ship, one of those like front things. And I have to say, David, because of their hoverboards were broken, I'm assuming, they walked this harp all the way back to Cat's Lair.
And that's what it said, Charr-Nin, please transport me to Cat's Lair.
But I think this is to show the ThunderCats don't take the quote-unquote easy way out, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to Lion-O's bedroom.
Here's this harp, you play it.
He just literally awoke. Did you see that? He got out of bed, and he's just like, oh.
He was taking a cat nap. Wah, wah, wah.
Well, what adventure has you two up so early this morning?
Lion-O, we have a present for you.
A present?
It's a magic harp.
Just strum it, and the genie Charr-Nin will appear.
If this is another wily cat trick.
No, just try it. You'll see.
Huh?
What is your wish?
By Jaga, this isn't happening.
Play the harp, Lion-O. Make a wish. Lion-O!
Surprised, ThunderKittens, huh? That's the last you'll see of the Lord of the ThunderCats.
That's the thing with ThunderCats. How many times have we seen Cheetara just wake up? Is it night? The ThunderKittens are out. What, did they get up at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Everything's out to kill you outside of Cat's Lair. Maybe you want to spend more time there. You're like, Let me take a leisurely nap that I might be assaulted by Mumm-Ra in my sleep. Or do I go out and get murdered and assaulted by every living thing, including probably the evil blades of death grasped underneath my feet on Third Earth? Let me see. Which one would I do? Take a leisurely nap and hope that Wiz-Ra comes back.
He's actually in Cheetara's bedroom sleeping currently.
Like, Cheetara, my bed is a little hot. Can I just sleep in your room for a couple of nights?
And you know she would do it.
Mirror with me? Can I just, I need the mirror. I'm Lord of the ThunderCats. Give me the mirror.
I've never asked anything of you before like this, but clearly you have more furniture in your room. I need that mirror. That's the only one that survived Third Earth's destruction. So he also, David, had the sword on his nightstand today. So we've seen this in the past. Sometimes it's in the sword chamber. Luckily today it was with him when the ThunderKittens woke him up from his slumber and gave him this harp to harp.
Sometimes he runs, sometimes he cries, sometimes he's scared of you. All he really wants to do is hold you tight. Brittany, I love you.
So then, Mumm-Ra goes back to the pyramid, and the ThunderCats awaken from their trance, because he was put in a trance, they were put in a trance, and they have no recollection of what just happened. They take the harp to Lion-O as a present and tell him all about Charr-Nin and his wishes. While initially thinking it was a prank, Lion-O nevertheless plays the harp. Charr-Nin materializes, but it immediately makes Lion-O disappear in a cloud of smoke. The genie claims that he simply granted Lion-O's wish. Oh my god, he wanted to get the hell out of here.
His wish is to stay far away from you annoying people.
Wouldn't that be hysterical? Oh, Lion-O's wish was to leave.
Wouldn't that be really funny if it really was his wish? He's like, I didn't come up with this. Charr-Nin did not come up with this. Look, I read your master's mind. The Lord of the ThunderCats wanted to be done with you.
He wants to go to Beautiful Island. Concerned about their leader, the ThunderKittens ask Charr-Nin to take them where Lion-O is, and the genie grants their wish. Suddenly, they all find themselves in the center of Third Earth, where Charr-Nin has tied up Lion-O. Oh, maybe that was his wish. He wanted to be bound. He did not ask with who, or whom, or what.
This is an American Horror Story, New York City. This is the ThunderCats.
So, Wily Kit and Wily Cat are also bound. In an attempt to escape, the ThunderKittens pretend to doubt Charr-Nin's powers and dare him to bring a snake bird.
Because once I have captured all the ThunderCats, the wizard Mumm-Ra will release me from this accursed harp.
Mumm-Ra! I should have known he was behind this. If you can distract him, I think I can free myself enough to get hold of the sword.
Silence, slaves! What were you whispering about?
Oh, we were just saying we didn't think much of your magic.
You doubt my power?
Yes! If you're so powerful and clever, prove it!
What proof would you like?
Well, I don't suppose you'll free us, so bring me a snake bird.
Such an easy request.
While he is gone, Lion-O tries to break out of his bonds and manages to free himself just as the genie returns. Lion-O quickly summons the other ThunderCats before engaging in battle with Charr-Nin. So David, he fights the ThunderCats.
Welcome, ThunderCats. I am Charr-Nin, genie of the great golden harp, and your master.
Lion-O is our leader, Charr-Nin.
Lion-O? Ha!
I can't move!
Those twigs don't frighten me!
This has gone on long enough!
How will you fight what you can't see, ThunderCat?
Panthro goes first, Cheetara tries, and then he makes a smoke for Tiger because he's left and he goes, how can you fight what you can't see? And that's when Tiger should have said, you're right, and gone invisible.
exactly what I was thinking too.
But he had to be taken down, of course, because we need Lion-O to be the hero, as always.
Not true. We know that Cheetara is always the hero. I'm just kidding.
Well, listen, I mean, did you see her staff doing that? She threw it and she made like multiple staffs. I love that. Like it turns into cages. It does everything, her staff.
We love her. We say.
Charr-Nin successfully defeats all of the ThunderCats, binding them all using their own weapons. As soon as all the ThunderCats are captured, Mumm-Ra appears. Charr-Nin tells him that he's fulfilled his part of the bargain, and it's now Mumm-Ra's turn to release him from his harp, but Mumm-Ra laughs and calls him a fool, I believe, as well, and negates on his promises, but furious at his betrayal, Charr-Nin attacks Mumm-Ra, and a great battle ensues between the two.
I have fulfilled my part of the bargain, Mumm-Ra. Now you must keep your promise. Promise? You have the ThunderCats. Now release me from the harp. Fool! Did you think I would share Third Earth with you? You may have magic, but mine is stronger. None of you will ever leave this cavern.
The walls are caving in!
I can repel your beam, but not for long.
So they're both blasting each other in this place. But Mumm-Ra says that he's still more powerful, but to me, David, he isn't, because he needed Charr-Nin to do this whole plot.
Yes, I have feelings about that myself. So, yes, Mumm-Ra clearly says, I will not share Third Earth with you. So he knew that if Charr-Nin was taken out of the harp and he was able to roam free, that he could do pretty much what he wanted. So here's the thing. Charr-Nin's Achilles heel is the harp. Mumm-Ra's is that he has to stay in the pyramid to recharge. So they both have something. Charr-Nin, is he evil? Is he not? I think honestly, every time you've ever watched something with genies typically are not evil. They are just taken advantage of, and they just want to be free. And if they could be free, they would be happy, and they probably wouldn't harm anybody because they just don't want to be stuck and be a servant to somebody for centuries and centuries and centuries. The fact is that he knew that Charr-Nin could possibly be a threat to his being the head spirit, the most powerful spirit on Third Earth. And yes, they were going back and forth. And at some point, Mumm-Ra tells him to withdraw your spell.
Yeah, withdraw your spell, yeah. But what was he going to do then? Have a standstill with him or make another bargain? Because at this point, he's...
But then the thing is that Charr-Nin was kind of weakening because of the fact that when you find that the ThunderCats, and we didn't mention this, Panthro is ensnared by his own weapon, so is Cheetara. You find that this is another case where they're trapped by their own weapons by means of magic.
Always,
so just kind of a side thing for me, because I know we've talked about Panthro being, tied up by his own nunchucks before.
Yes.
Yeah, he was weakening, but I don't know. So that they leave while this
it's collapsing.
This cabin is collapsing, and they're this kind of standoff.
They're escaping. Withdraw your spell. Never.
ThunderCats! Ho!
But you did see Charr-Nin start to kneel, right? Didn't he kneel like he was losing power?
He did, but then to me, I thought he was this undying being, right? Because if you read this, David, it says the ThunderCats assume that both Mumm-Ra and Charr-Nin are dead. So Charr-Nin, to me, I thought should have probably returned to the harp, but this is saying no, he just died. He got crushed.
Well, I don't know if he got crushed. Oh, so at the very end, they have the
wrap up, the moral,
the wrap up with the the very soft music that always plays. It's so funny. I was watching this, and my kids must have messed around with the TV, and I was actually watching the show and looking at the subtitles, and it says soft music playing, which is.
You know exactly, yep.
When they play that same kind of very soft mellow, okay, this is what we're going to recap. And Panther says, well, at least one good thing came out of it. Mumm-Ra's gone. And then they pull off, and then you hear, like him going berserk, like, how dare you think that I am dead? And he goes berserko. Comes out, and what appears to be like flame or lava shooting hole, and he's like, I am not so easily destroyed. Wherever evil exists, Mumm-Ra lives. And he's doing his screaming and craziness that he owes because he gets pissed, gets very pissed off.
So easily disposed of. For wherever evil exists, Mumm-Ra lives. Mumm-Ra lives. Mumm-Ra
I love, though, when he resorts to the wherever evil exists, Mumm-Ra lives. Because that's when he's just like, you didn't get me.
Harp. Maybe Charr-Nin was still tied to the harp, and he did something to the harp.
Oh, and then maybe so basically probably the harp is buried again down there, and honestly, I think he returned to the harp, like you're saying, or something like that.
So my question is, Ryan, to you, if you found a magical harp or a bottle, would you not want to set the genie free as long as they were not a djinn, right? Because djinns always have negative consequences, but would a genie? Like literally tomorrow, you found a magic bottle. You were at an antique store or something, and you just happened to pick up something, and now you are I would definitely do it. Why would you need to have all that?
But then would that be your last wish, basically? Because normally, let's say 3 wishes, right?
So I would wish for all the powers of a genie without having to have any constraints, would you say?
Because then they'll make you the genie, yeah.
I want all of your powers without any confinement to bottles or consequences, and that's what I would wish. And then the other 2 wishes would be whatever, because I could do whatever I wanted.
Make the Radical Retro Rewind podcast extremely popular, and then you get to go home. And
I would like 1 billion views on each episode. Billions.
Willa. Then I would wish the second wish would be for Lynn Lipton to do a voiceover
with us.
Yes. Oh my God. If she was on something, I know she does conventions, but oh my God, if we could get her.
Come on, Lynn Lipton, do one with us. Maybe she could do the anointment. If anybody knows Lynn Lipton, if she's your neighbor, your mother, your friend, tell her, Lynn Lipton. The Radical Retro speaks Cheetara's name daily. She's up there. She's held up higher than Jaga.
She honestly, we love Lynn Lipton, so that would be a dream, honestly, if we could get her somehow. Like I said, so she must be on something because she does do these conventions with Lion-O and Tigra, the voice actors.
Well, any of them, all of them. Please come on, the Radical Retro Rewind. Anybody that's out there, even if you know that their grandchild goes to your school, oh my God. You get them.
Grab Lynn Lipton in the supermarket. Force her to talk like Willa. Can you do a little Willa for us? Oh, what the hell were we talking? So yes, genies. So during that wrap up, David, I did want to write this. I guess the moral was we shouldn't mess around with things we don't understand, is what the ThunderKittens says. But then Panther goes, it happens.
This was our fault. We shouldn't have messed around with something we didn't understand.
It happens.
Well, thanks for getting us out of a hole.
And sometimes you drink too much and you go in a bar and you don't realize there's only just men everywhere. And you don't really say anything. And you just go along with it. It's dark.
That's
what Panther? What?
That's what I was assuming. He said it happens. It happens.
Well, the whole thing. So one more thing. Do you remember? I never was a big watcher of the X-Files.
Yes.
But I remember an episode where there was a djinn and whatever, Mulder or Scully, whatever, I don't know which one's what. Scully's Mulder.
The girl. Yeah.
Mulder, so he could get around the djinn being like manipulating. He literally typed his wish out on a computer and was like, there are no ramifications for this wish, blah, blah, blah. Nothing that would be perceived as ramifications, blah, 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 blah. And it was this paragraph. And he's like, that's my wish. And that would be my wish. And then I guess it worked out where he decided to let the djinn free because of whatever. Because the first wish was world peace. The djinn got rid of every single person on Earth. And that's why there was world peace.
Oh my god.
So instead, then the next wish, I believe, was to bring the people back. And then his third wish was going to be blah, blah, blah. This whole paragraph. He's like, you need to go by what I said over here. No ramifications for any actions, blah, blah. Wouldn't that be how you get around the Wishmaster? No, he didn't do it. He didn't do it because he set the djinn free instead.
See, I don't think there's any way to honestly get away from a genie without some kind of... It always seems that there is a way that they make it negative.
Not an Aladdin.
You got to get a Robin Williams.
Can your friend do that?
I wish it was the Aladdin one. But yeah, I mean, Charr-Nin actually, we never found out if he was honestly bad or not. He could have gone both ways, right?
I don't know anything about his sexuality, Ryan. Please stop bringing these topics up to muddle up my experience with my childhood love, ThunderCats.
Charr-Nin.
Maybe he was Charr-Nin during the week and Charmaine. During the week.
Charmaine was the Charmaine.
What happens when people these entities become spirits that last forever? They get tired of their persona and like, I'm gonna do drag. I'm gonna fool a bunch of kids and pretend that I'm a Wolo.
You know what, Mumm-Ra, honestly, that makes the most sense. Mumm-Ra's been around so long. This is the only enjoyment in his life, is dressing up.
He's like, what can I do next? I know, I'll do drag this time.
And on that, we have trivia. The episode, of course, is roughly similar to the old folk tale of Aladdin from the Arabian Nights story.
Arabian Nights.
When the episode was broadcast in the UK, all of the scenes showing Panthro using his nunchucks were cut, which I believe I've heard this before because nunchucks are banned in the UK. So, which leads me to ask any of our UK ThunderCats fans, what happens when Panthro attacks on every other episode?
Do they replace his nunchucks with chickens?
With chickens? Is that just...
With chickens? Chickens! I don't know.
Gonzo! Oh, Carmella! Please let us know if anyone knows.
I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome. I wonder if they had to do reanimation, or did they... Okay, so what would be the difference from nunchucks versus, like, two swords, or...
Nunchucks are banned, I get it, but then... To me, there's no way at the time
I guess what's less violent, because I don't think in America, I mean, at least that I remember growing up, nunchucks were like, if you think about like Little Big Trouble in Little China, I'm talking like an 80 experience. I'm not talking about like current times, but like nunchucks, usually in movies, kids do something stupid and they hit themselves in the head with them and knock themselves out or other people. We never, like as children, not professional martial artists or anything like that, view them as like a toy, literally.
Which probably definitely caused a lot of injuries. But to me, what happens... So Panthro never fights then, evidently.
Well, but definitely, yes. Any of our ThunderCat listeners, that would be really interesting to see, and what your view is on that and why. Because maybe there's a history you don't realize that we don't know about. That'd be kind of cool.
Investigative report.
Do the things they do. There's like so many things culturally just so many things that we would never understand or because we didn't grow up with it. It's not necessarily our cultural background.
So interesting. Yeah, I would love to know that.
People think that our family's crazy for putting raisins and pine nuts or pinoli nuts in meat.
Oh, it's what's your tradition too. Yes.
What is that, from Naples?
I think
is that a southern or northern Italian?
Because everyone's got their own regional thing.
I embrace my Irish side, you know, being that I have
flaming red hair,
curly red hair, and not. Although that don't mean nothing.
Lion-O has curly red hair too, David.
And he can come over anytime he wants, and you can bring his sword if he wants. How do you use the sword, Lion-O?
He's bringing Cheetara's mirror over with him.
I'm bringing the mirror back. Yeah.
bringing mirrors back. This is the third episode in which Tigra is getting... we see Tigra...
This is the third episode with Tigra. Why do you gotta... You don't like Tigra very much, Ryan. You're always making fun of me. He has a problem.
Actually, I actually do love Tigra. I just think he's always underused, and they always make him
he's the intellectual. He's not supposed to be the brawn so much, I guess.
Did you
ever want Lion-O and Tigra to get together? Because I did as a child.
Well, yeah, because honestly, out of all of them, Tigra, and in ThunderCats Roar, they made him basically homosexual without saying it. So I always thought Tigra was that one. Very stoic, very... Yeah, I think he is. The ThunderCats 2011 reboot, they made Tigra and Lion-O brothers who hated each other, which was sad. They had like a rivalry.
Sibling rivalry, yeah.
Yes.
Like we do.
Sibling rivalry. I don't wanna share, I wanna make it nuts. Give me what you got, gotta have it all.
I paid the man a lot of money. I was stoned.
Oh my god. Listen to our bodyguard episode for anybody out there for our normal
and then
show.
Some. I paid him and then some. This is my podcast.
And Mumm-Ra shows up, and I paid the money. Oh my god,
There's a song by the artist Mila that's not
Mila Jovovich?
No, not Mila Jovovich. I'm thinking I can't think of her name, but it's all about the money. It's all about the dun 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 dun. And I don't think it's funny. It starts with her name starts with an M, but its song is called "It's All About the Money." I think you should put that in this episode too. It'd be funny because of Mumm-Ra.
Money, money, money.
The best things in life are free, but you can leave it to the birds and bees. I want money. That's what I want.
Diamonds. So this is the third episode that we see Tigra being tied up with his bolo whip. Which, of course, we will see this again, it says. In this episode, Mumm-Ra disguises himself as a Balkan in order to trick his way into the cat's lair. And then when Lion-O summons the other ThunderCats, the cat signal from the Sword of Omens blasts through the ground. The tunnel it leaves behind is what Panthro uses to drive the Thunder Tank into Lion-O's location. I did not notice that.
I did. Oh, we'll meet to come with the bungler, too.
This is time for today's Who Is the Biggest Bungler?
You bungler! Once again, you have failed. You bungled it! Delightful.
So, David, we go back to our first episode, which was Sword in a Hole. I will tell you, this was the one we were thinking of, like, what was going to be the hardest person to come up with or thing for the biggest bungler. I actually picked Neptune because Neptune was just so by the books. He wouldn't allow them to leave, and...
To Neptune's demise, yes.
Yes.
Thank you, because I was struggling with that. So I'm going to go with Neptune, too. Ding, ding, ding!
Yeah, Neptune for this one. And then if we had to pick in, which I always want to call it is the evil Harp of Charr-Nin. So that it is evil. So he is evil, David. It's actually in the title,
But it's not. You can change him. Don't worry. You can change him, girl. Don't worry. I know he cheated on you. I know that he stole your money, but you can save him. You can change him, girl. Don't worry.
But can you really?
No, you can't, but I'm just being,
So would he be your biggest bungler? Because
No.
I actually came up with, oh, good. Okay,
No.
Who's your biggest bungler?
Mumm-Ra, and I'm going to tell you why. Hear me out. If Mumm-Ra would have just told Charr-Nin, okay, I'm going to free you. Let me transport these ThunderCats back to my... I picked out some new crypts for them to go into, some new coffins, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll be back, baby. I'll be back. Just hold on. I'll be back. No, I'll call. Don't worry. I will call you back. Could have taken them away, and we would have been done, because we know that he can transport to space. I'm sure he could transport a couple of ThunderCats into his place, and I'm sure Charr-Nin wouldn't be anywhere.
Yeah.
Or he could have went with his word, even though he's evil, because according to what you're saying, Charr-Nin is evil, and said, okay, fine, you're free. You're free on the planet Venus. Bloop, transport you there.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You're free, but not here.
free on the gray penile planet without power. He's so strong.
No, he's like, I got a few mutants.
Whatever he wanted, but his biggest bungalow is trying to screw over someone who has an advantage power-wise, because I'm not unconvinced that Charr-Nin, having rested, because if he's a magical being, it's not that he runs out of magic. Mumm-Ra doesn't Mumm-Ra physically runs out of steam, energy, power, because he's tied to a pyramid. Charr-Nin is not, the harp doesn't give him his power. Charr-Nin is inherently a magical creature.
Yep.
It's like a fairy running, you don't run at a fairy dust, it's just who you are. Your body makes it, or just whatever. You'd have to, so I'm not thinking that Charr-Nin really is as weak as Mumm-Ra was trying to put out.
No, I think it was just the collapsing, and Mumm-Ra just happened to leave him and then go. So yeah, I love that he's your bungler. I would do that because you're right. It's because Mumm-Ra has to portray always the person he's working with and be the right one. But I'm actually going with Wily Kit and Wily Cat because they're always playing with things they don't. How many times have we told you not to play with things we don't understand? Like Cheetara told them one time. Like, I get it, it's a plot device, but they keep finding mythical items, touching them, and then either releasing a creature. This has been Groon, this has been Mongor, this has been now Charr-Nin. Like, stop touching anything. Stop touching everything.
I tell my kids all the time that it doesn't work, Ryan. You're not a parent. They will just keep touching Magic Harp.
They
didn't release Mongor anymore.
Thank God. And to this time they wanted to make it a gift, but I'm going with the kittens as much as I do really love them.
If they had given it to Cheetara because it was gold.
Oh yeah, they would have been over. She would have melted it.
She would have melted and took the strings off and been like, jewelry!
So ThunderCats fans, thank you again for joining us for this ThunderCats Power Hour. As always, we're always bungling ourselves and saying crazy things, but we love talking ThunderCats, and we love being here with you, David.
Yes, and the anointment will begin.
There you go. So next month, right in time for the holidays, whatever you celebrate, even if it's New Year's, the last week of December is a 5-part mega episode.
No, it's great. The only thing is we're going to have to work out.
And we're out of sequence, right?
We're out of sequence. Yes, ThunderCats fans, we're going out of sequence just so you don't have to wait for all this anointment action.
ThunderCats listeners, bunglers, if you have an idea of how we can go back and do the other episodes with number-wise, please, because I'm already trying to think of how we're going to do it sequence-wise. So we are not above suggestions, and we love to hear from you. So thank you as always. ThunderCats ho! ThunderCats.